Welcome everybody. Today we're going to take a look at the chakra system. And the chakra system in yoga originated really with a system called Tantra. So when we look at the history of yoga and yoga philosophy, we have Patanjali's yoga first. Well, not really first, but before that comes before what we call Tantra and Hatha yoga. So I'm sure some of you have heard the words Hatha yoga and wondered what does that mean. Well, Hatha yoga, even though it's become known in the West as kind of a slow moving asana class, it's really an entire philosophical system, and it is the system from which derives the chakra system. So in yoga, we pronounce it cha, like chocolate, because in this Devanagari, in the Sanskrit, there is no sh, at least not the way it's written with a C. So when you see the C in the Sanskrit, it's a ch sound. Okay, so the chakra system is something different. That's the rainbow system that came from the school of theosophy, kind of melded with Jungian psychology. So that's a really relatively new construct, the whole rainbow chakra system that many of you are familiar with. When we go back into the tantric texts and the tantric traditions, what we find is that there's many variations on the chakra system. Okay, so essentially I'm going to explain the technology of what in theory is happening as we're doing these practices of yoga. Okay, so in yoga, we do not separate the body from the mind from the soul, right? They're all one thing, right? So you can't body out from your physical body, because once the prana leaves the system, the body is no longer alive, right? So the pranic layer, or the energetic layer of the self, has been described in several different texts, but the oldest one is in the Upanishads, and it talks about the energetic body being the same shape and form as a person, but it can contract and be smaller, or it can expand and be bigger, right? And I'm sure you've all felt those times where you feel really contracted and your energy feels really tight. And you've probably all felt those times where your energy feels more spacious and expanded. Okay, so that's exactly what they're talking about. Now, in the system of Hatha yoga, we do these practices, right? If we look at classical yoga, Patanjali's yoga, and by the way, they're not necessarily opposed to one another, right? The later systems of yoga build on the earlier systems of yoga. So they take the earlier philosophies and they just kind of refine them a little bit. And yes, some of them are oppositional in terms of the way they see the nature of reality, but ultimately they're all talking about a unitive discipline that includes the body, mind, spirit. Okay, so we start out as this single-celled organism, right? And then once the egg becomes fertilized, now we start this multiplication process or division process, right? So the theory is that as we are taking form, so first we start out as pure awareness. This appears pure awareness. Some people call it Sat Chitananda, which is being, consciousness, and bliss, right? Brahman is another word for it. Some people may have heard it called Purusha or Shiva, right? So it represents that state of pure awareness that's inert. It never changes. It never goes anywhere. It doesn't act. There's no action in pure awareness, okay? Now, when we begin to take physical form, right? So we start out here with what's called, in Hatha yoga and in Tantra, they talk a lot about Shiva and Shakti, okay? Shiva is pure awareness and Shakti is physical manifestation, right? Energy, anything that moves and changes. And pure awareness is that which does not move or change, right? And it never ends, it never begins. So when we are one, right, we are unified. And then when we begin to take form, now we're going to turn into an individual, for example. Okay, so what happens in the theory of Hatha yoga is that as we begin to take physical form, so as we're growing ourselves in utero, right, little pieces, so Shakti has to descend down to the base of the spine where she's going to coil up. Okay, and we refer to Shakti as a she. It's a feminine energy. Okay, so we have Shiva and Shakti joined here initially, and then as we start to take form, Shakti begins to descend down what becomes the spine. Okay, and she deposits herself in little places along the way. And so these little places where she deposits little bits and pieces of herself are what we call the chakra system. Now, I think most of us are familiar with the 7 chakra system. There are systems that have 5, there are systems that have 8, 9, 13. So what we want to get from that is that it's not a set thing, right? What the yogis were really interested in were the elements, right? So the earth, water, fire, air, and what we call ether or space, okay? And so as Shakti deposits herself in these various places down what we're going to call the central channel of the body, or the Sushumna Nadi, okay, each one of us is going to have a slightly different template of our own unique chakra system, right? So if when you close your eyes and you focus your gaze at your third eye, you don't see purple, there's nothing wrong with that. Right? Your individual chakra system may have a different color associated with it. It may have a different sound associated with it. It may have a different scent associated with it, right? All of these things are real, and they're all going to be individualized. So that rainbow template that's been kind of imposed on the chakra system is not necessarily one that you need to fit yourself into. Okay, so the whole point of any kind of chakra meditation is to turn your awareness inside and connect to the elements. So when we're talking about the different chakras and the different elements, we start at the base, right? And the base would be the Muladhara chakra. So Mula means root, Mul means root, and Adhar is container. Okay, so we have the Muladhara chakra at the bottom, and there are 3 different main what we call nadis. Okay, a nadi is an energy channel, right? And there's hundreds of thousands of them in the body, depending on who you talk to. And they are the pathways through which energy flows, right? Now, we do know, again, from the Upanishads and from other different texts, that the physical form and the energetic form are very similar. So it would be something like the nervous system. If you were to dissolve everything out besides the nerves, you would still see the human form. If you were to dissolve everything out besides all the capillaries and the veins and arteries, you would still see the human form. It's very similar to that. Okay, now there are 3 main energy channels that run up and down the spine, from the very center of your pelvic floor to your third eye. And this is defined as the pranic vessel. Okay, the third eye is the Ajna chakra, A-J-N-A, Ajna. Okay, and then this is again the Muladhara. All right, so we have the Muladhara chakra, and we have on the left side of the body, so starting at the left nostril and terminating and in the pelvic floor, in the Muladhara, is what we call the Ida Nadi. Right? Ida represents the force, lunar forces, cool, dark, rest. Okay, and then the right nostril is going to be Pingala, and you can see here they switch sides. Well, this is a 2-dimensional picture. It's really a helix, right? It's a double helix, like a DNA. Okay, so it's a spiral, right? And again, these are little energy vortices that are remnants of your individual Shakti that have deposited themselves along the central channel of Sushumna. Right? Sushumna is the empty, radiant channel of light, right? Or prana. Some people call it golden liquid light, white light, whatever works for you. Okay, so we have Muladhara, then we come to the Svadhisthana, which is the 2nd chakra, and its element is water. So we have earth, we have water in the Svadhisthana. Now, I know that you've probably all heard a lot of psychological overlays to this little template, and that again is a really new construct. Okay, so you know, in New Age philosophy or New Age religion, whatever you want to call it, you know, they talk a lot about the root chakra being you know, if you have issues in your root chakra, you've got issues with your physical surroundings, and you know, you're not feeling stable in your life. That's a very recent transposition, okay, so or juxtaposition. Okay, so again, the yogis were only interested in the elements and what you could feel, sense, and notice your own self inside. Okay, so again, we're going to focus more on the elements and the quality of the elements. So we have the earth, we have water, very fluid. This is also associated with the prana maya kosha, and I'm going to do another one on the koshas for you, so we'll get to that as well. So we have Muladhara, Svadhisthana. Swadi or Svadi means one's own abode. right? So this is one's own abode, is that second chakra. And this is going to be located halfway between your navel and your pubis, essentially, right? Now, we come up one more to what's called the Manipura chakra. Okay, Manipura literally means city of jewels, right? And the Manipura chakra is the solar plexus, okay? And its element is fire, all right? So we have earth, water, fire in the Manipur. And now we're going to come up to what's called the Anahata, all right? Anahata is the heart chakra, right, in the heart space. So you can see how there's going to be, variations in where these are located, how you individually may feel them, right? Because your individual Shakti deposited itself where it needed to, okay? So we have the Manipura chakra, Muladhara, Svadhisthana, Manipura, Anahata, and then we have Vishuddha. Vishuddha is the throat, okay? And the element for Anahata is air, right? Air, or Vayu is also another word for air in Sanskrit, right? And so now we're starting to get into some of the more subtle elements, right? We get into air, space, and then pure awareness, okay? So earth, water, fire, air, space or ether, sometimes called ether, and the Vishuddha chakra. And then we have the Agnya chakra. And again, its element is also going to be space. So there are some individual qualities still present in this field here. So this is the third eye, and then you see this little bowl that I have drawn. So this is the third eye, which is the top part of the pranic vessel. So as we do our practices of yoga, so I'm talking about our asana, our pranayama, the breathing practices, the mantra practices, so the chanting, all of the, and meditation, right? So this is all descriptive of what's going to happen in this meditative process, in the process of meditation. So as we're doing these practices, what we're doing is we're kind of toning, or what I like to say, I like to call it tuning the instrument, okay? So we're toning all of these areas of the body when we're doing our breathing, when we're doing our our asana practice, and when we're chanting. Vocalization especially helps to tone and tune the instrument of the chakra system. Okay, and I like to think of it as an instrument because it is about vibration, right? Ultimately, it's all about vibration. So we have these two left poles and right poles of the body, right? Or the Ida and the Pingala Nadi. So the Ida Nadi, again, is one of rest, relaxation, coolness, darkness. And then the Pingala is the solar channel. Okay, so that's going to be more active, more bright and fast paced, right? And the whole idea is to balance these two poles. So the theory is that in everyday consciousness, we kind of swing between the Ida and the Pingala. So we're either right side dominant or left side dominant, right side dominant, left side dominant, right? So, and we just kind of fluctuate between these two poles. As a matter of fact, in the nostrils, your nostril dominance as you breathe changes every 60 to 90 minutes, right? And it's got something to do with the Ida and the Pingala nadis, okay? And they do, that third eye point of the Agnya chakra is that place where it all kind of comes together. And then we join with pure awareness. So once we've stilled the fluctuations of consciousness, so this is where we come into a little bit of, go back to classical yoga a little bit. Patanjali defined yoga as the stilling of the chitta vrittis, right? So the mind stuff, the chitta vrittis are the, well, fluctuations of the heart mind, literally. And so once we, through the practices of yoga, once we start to bring those two poles closer to center, we start to balance this energetic nervous system, if you like, right? So we can call it the energetic nervous system or the energetic body. And so we're essentially decreasing the amplitude of these waves between Ida and Pingala. And then what happens is once this is all clear, right? So we've been doing the practices and maybe doing some toning at each of these places, and we start to really feel the sense of energy flowing through the central channel of the body, right? From Muladhara all the way to third eye. Once that pranic pathway has been cleared, then there's this three-coiled kundalini at the base of the spine. So remember when Shakti deposited herself, she deposits herself at the base of the spine at the tip of the tail, And she wraps herself around there 3.5 times. Okay, now once we've gotten this all clear and everything's all toned, then when Kundalini wakes up, and Kundalini wakes up a number of different ways. One is through a guru, one is through just the practices. But this idea of the essence of the self kind of waking up and remembering. So then she, once she's free, she will climb up this kind of ladder of awareness and being. He joins at the third eye with pure awareness. Now, this little point here is that's called the Bindu chakra, right? So again, I'm going to go back. Muladhara, Svadhisthana, Manipur, Anahata, Vishuddha, Agnya, and this is called Bindu, right? And this one would be called Sahasrara. Sahasrara means 1,000-petaled lotus, and that is the merging with pure awareness. This little spot right here, the Bindu, is located right at the back of the head, kind of where my knot is. And this is the place of the received Om, right? So if you look at the Om as the foundational vibration of everything, right? There's even a mantra to the Om, the Omkara. At a certain point in your meditation, you may start to hear Om, right? You'll just hear this as you're meditating. And so this is the place where it's that kind of junction between pure awareness and the individual. And this is where we join together with pure awareness right back here. I kind of think of it as like your little plug into the matrix, right? So this is where your little individual self plugs into the whole. And then this part here, the Sahasrara, is part of pure awareness. So this is without qualities, in fact. Okay, and I know that can be a little confusing. This is all manifestation, right? All physical manifestation, and this is not manifest in a physical way, right? So this would be sort of the individuated qualities that we grow as we become. All right. So I just wanted to give you a little overview of the chakra system from the yoga perspective, right? So again, this is not it's not quite as detailed in information as the New Age rainbow one, right? So we don't assign psychological qualities to this, right? It's purely elemental and experiential. So I encourage you next time you're meditating to just take a look and place your awareness at these different places in your body. And notice what you see, notice what you feel, notice what you hear, maybe even what you smell. Okay, so that can be a chakra meditation, right? You can do a whole meditation on placing your awareness at these different places in your body and noticing what your experience is, because this is about your experience and nobody else's. Right? So thank you so much for joining me for this, and I'll see you another time.